Hello, everybody. My name's James. Welcome to the Planet FPL People's Poll podcast, where we give the Twitter, or should I say the X universe, the opportunity to vote on a chosen topic for our podcast today. I'm joined by Clayton Fernandez. How are you, Clayton?
Doing good, mate. How are you?
Yeah, not too bad. Thanks, buddy. So there were three options in the poll. One was managers we think may survive till May. And I thought that was quite interesting based on a question I had on my Ask James stream on Friday. Was like, who do you think will be first manager sacked? And I was like, I ain't got a clue. And it's interesting. You look at the managers, you think, I could see them all staying there all season. They won't, because it
No,
never works that way. Bookies haven't got a clue. Quick question, Clayton. Who's the bookies' favourite to be first manager out of a job in the Premier League?
I'm going to go for one of the promoted sides. Luton
It's not.
manager. No? Okay. Wolves?
Yeah, Julian
Yeah,
Lopetegui. Yeah, I
I
mean,
think they could struggle.
he's 9-1, which
Wow.
is
9-1. Bloody
yeah.
hell.
So and that's the shortest price. So that bookies obviously think the same. They're like, oh, I can see a lot of managers hanging around for quite a while this season. Marco Silva's next on that, but we think he's turned down that offer from
Oh, has he?
Saudi Arabia actually. So yeah, most of the managers I think you could see staying throughout the season actually. They said that's not how it works though. Another option in the poll was youngsters we think might break out into Premier League teams this season, but the one you've gone with was to choose players that me and Clayton think will have a better second season in the Premier League, and we've defined that as second season with their new club. We have allowed access for players who joined in the January transfer window as well, and we've ordered players in a list, and we don't know who's on each other's lists. I suspect there'll probably be some crossovers here of players. Do you want to pick a first player, Clayton, or shall I?
You go for it. You set the tone.
Well, I'm fairly certain this player will be on your list anyway. So Darwin Nunez of
He's first on mine.
yeah, I think. Do you like him?
I do. I can't work out if I think he's technically not at the top level or if he's just going through a rough period. Because you look at his stats, and I don't know about you, but I quite like comparing career stats and XG versus actual goals and stuff. But obviously, well, not really, he underperformed in the Champions League and Premier League by 4 XG to goals last season. But then the year before at Benfica, it was a freak season in terms of his finishing. But as a player, his movement, his tenacity, like I think he's great. I remember the game at the Emirates, I was there, and I
Yeah,
rated
he's
him
good.
anyway. But that game, I was like, oh my God, this guy's movement. And I don't know what it is when you're physically there in person. And I was like the second row for that game, so quite low down. And it just blew my mind in terms of, yeah, his ferociousness and his movement. But the actual finishing that we've seen last season is questionable. I'm just thinking, I don't know, it's one of those. I think I'm someone that when I'm looking at strikers, if I see a striker getting into positions enough time, and because I think in probability quite a lot, I think, well, if he's getting enough chances, by law of averages, he'll put a few away. But yeah.
Yeah, I think he's one. It's almost the thinking time can become too much for him sometimes. When it's stuff off the cuff, it seems to come natural. I think of the finish at Newcastle when Trent played him a little dink ball into the box, and it was like chest drop, half volley, bang, goal. And it's almost that not enough time to think about it. Or in that occasion, he actually did have more time, but presumably didn't think that he did, and just hit it like straight away. And he's got the technical qualities. I agree with you. And actually, that Arsenal game stuck out for me as well. I want to say he scored the equaliser in the
I think
game,
he did
a
actually.
game you
Yeah.
won 3-2. And yeah, he's running in behind and movement. It was the game that stood out for me as well. And I thought, yeah, there's something there. Think about the game at Villa, Boxing Day, where he really missed chances, but Liverpool just kept pinging it over the top for him.
Yeah.
And he's kind of become carnage, or chaos is the word I use for him a lot. And I don't know if we're ever really sure that he's going to equate to a volume of goals that will be worth the money that obviously Liverpool paid for him. That doesn't help the pressure that obviously comes with this huge price tag. And I know there's a bit of debate in the Liverpool community at the moment in terms of even if he'll start the season.
Yeah. I was
Joss is
speaking
doing well
to,
in pre-season. Cody Gakpo's obviously
yeah.
an option, and we saw Nunes play quite a lot, certainly in the second half of the season, in the left wing position. And obviously Luis Diaz is
Yeah.
now back fit as
Where do
well.
you think his best spot is in
I
that
think
Liverpool
he's a
team?
centre forward
Same.
for me. He's interesting thinking about Liverpool moving to this box shape, which we haven't really seen him too much play the number 9 in front of that. You would think that gets people higher in support and closer to him quicker, but then the space in behind might not be as good because Liverpool probably going to dominate even more in terms of the final third. So running off the shoulder might be even more difficult for him. He's kind of at his best. I think that we use the Arsenal game as an analogy. Obviously, that's a more difficult game where Liverpool are going to have less of the ball. There should be more space in behind for Liverpool to knock it over the top. So, yeah, he's got to improve his finishing.
Yeah,
there's no doubt about that because he's missing too many big chances. And this isn't an FPL dedicated podcast, but he will come into people's thoughts as a 7.5 forward.
I want to start with him. I really do. It's the minutes and the competition that I'm unsure about.
Yeah. We discussed it on pods previously. We said like if it opens up, I think on the pod with Tom Campbell did last Monday, like if it opens up where Gakpo and Jota's injured, for example, and it looks like he's really going to start, then yeah, and similar applies to Jota particularly as well.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't have the confidence to. You can't unless you think he's going to start.
No, exactly. The finishing's such an interesting one though, because like I said, when you look at the stats and the year before at Benfica, so I got this from FB Ref. So he scored 32 goals from 21.5 XG in all competitions. Like, and I'll be honest, I didn't watch him much at Benfica that season, but when I look at him on the eye and there's something off with technique, I can't put my finger on it. He doesn't look, in my opinion, the most comfortable. And yeah, I don't know if like
Haaland sometimes.
True. And I don't know if it what you say, I agree with, to be fair, when there's too much time to think about things. But I've got that opinion on one hand, and then on the other, like I said, I value a striker's ability to get into the right places and create the space to get chances so much because, like I say, just by probability, if you're getting in those right areas, you'll get more chances that even if you blunder a few, you'll score a few. And I think that's quite hard to teach, the kind of movement side of things and being able to create that yard in the box, which he's so good at. So I do think he will do better this season though. Yeah, it's just interesting, like the kind of eye test angle. When I look at him, I can't figure him out sometimes.
Yeah, it's 9 goals, 3 assists in the Premier League last year, which doesn't sound like much, but he only started half the games.
Yeah.
So, so obviously there's a lot of substitute appearance in there as well, not helped by the odd niggling injury as well. And as I said, he got shunted out to the left the longer the season went on as well. But if he played 38 games, I'd back him probably to be in the top 5 or 6 scorers in the league, I think.
Me too. Same.
Yeah.
Quite comfortably, I'd back that as well.
Yeah, I agree. I think if he started 38 games, I think he'd hit 20.
Same. Yeah, me too.
But right now, we're not sure if that's the case. One of the things that appears to have maybe stood in his way a little bit was Jurgen Klopp was a little, I say critical is probably a bit harsh, but he said he was struggling a bit with the language, didn't he?
Oh, okay, I didn't see that.
Yeah. And I think he took him out the firing line a little bit on occasion once players like Jota got back fit. I have a sneaky little start at Chelsea on the opening day, but nowhere near enough confidence to consider him as a fantasy option at this minute in time, I don't think.
No, but that's the beauty of pre-season, right? Like you learn so much information that I don't know how many games Liverpool have left, but let's just say there's 2 or 3 more. If you see him consistently starting, then I'd be willing
but
to.
But you won't in pre-season, will you? That Nunes is a perfect case of that, where they're all going to get minutes in pre-season, aren't they?
Yeah.
So Jota's going to get minutes. Gakpo played a deeper role in the friendly they had yesterday.
Okay.
They're all going to get minutes. So it's not like Nunes is going to get 5 90 minutes in a row and he's in. We're not going to get that. And it'd be similar, say, with your club in, say, like a Jesus and a Ketcher and stuff. But we know what the choice
sharing
is
the load
on day one. For Liverpool, that's not so clear. I think their last friendly, I want to say, is against Darmstadt. Preston at Deepdale, which is part to do with the Anfield Road redevelopment, which is why they're not playing at Anfield. But I don't know how much clues even that's going to give us, to be totally honest. I'm not sure. Go on in, Clayton. You pick the next one, mate.
I've gone Mudryk.
Okay,
Chelsea.
Yeah,
is he on your list?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So yeah, what do you think of him as a player?
Well, I had a deep look at him for talking tactics in January when Chelsea signed him. And I looked at him obviously at Shakhtar Donetsk. I looked at him in a game at Leipzig, and they won 4-1, and he got a couple, and clearly stands out. Good dribbler. The thing that stood out, ironically, was his first touch was a bit dodgy on occasions. Like quite often he turns into trouble, and I think we saw that a lot in the Premier League last season. But in terms of his technical qualities, if he gets in the right position in terms of like his finishing and stuff, it's really good. Obviously, he is rapid beyond belief when he gets going, and if he can learn to curve his runs more and coming into the central areas, that old kind of Lundberg run, if he's got the pace, he'll get away over the top. So I'm fairly certain there's a very, very talented footballer there. But I guess probably the striking thing so far is it almost feels like he maybe needs an arm around the shoulder. And obviously the way Chelsea season ended was pathetic by their standards. But in his new manager in Pochettino, he's going to get that.
Yeah.
He's going to get the arm around the shoulder and the encouragement. He's still only 22. So there's a long way to go. And the adaptation from, sure, did well in the Champions League with Shakhtar, but the adaptation from Ukrainian football to the Premier League with the price tag that come with it is a lot. I think probably what didn't help him was, do you remember the cameo he had at Liverpool on his debut?
That's the one that sticks in my head.
That's the best performance we've seen from him.
Yeah, and that was his first. I think that was his first appearance, right?
Yeah, it was. Yeah,
yeah, and I remember obviously Arsenal fan, so I thought we were getting him for a while. So I tuned into that game with the angle of, okay, what have we potentially missed out on here? And when I saw that cameo, I was like, oh my God, they've got a world beater. Because I'd never really seen him before we were linked, and then when Chelsea got him, but like you, I did all the YouTube scouting and stuff, and the one thing that kind of stood out to me from watching clips and stuff was he very much seems like a transition player, and I'm not sure how he is in a team that would potentially control the ball quite a lot. But I'm conscious a lot of those clips were at Shakhtar against teams in the Champions League where, that's natural, right? But
Chelsea look like they're trying to sell every midfield player they've got other than Enzo Fernandez. So maybe they're not going to have a lot of control. Maybe they're going to play 4-1-5 next year.
But yeah, his 1v1, again, all of this is based on like clips on YouTube, so it's so hard. But even that cameo against Liverpool, his 1v1 is like center of gravity, the way he can like drop the shoulder. It reminded me a lot of like Matoma in the way he kind of takes a man on and stuff.
It's arguably maybe technically better.
I think he is, yeah. So I think he's got huge potential. And well, you know their new manager very well. Do you think he's the man to get the best out of him?
You would think so. Yeah, I think that the first thing, reflecting on that Anfield game, you're going into Anfield, you're going into the atmosphere, and neither team was in particularly good form at that point, it is worth saying. But the game was quite drab. He came on and made it interesting.
Yeah, it finished 0-0, I think,
stepped in there into that environment at Anfield and looked fearless.
Yeah.
I'm gonna win this game. And we never really saw it again. I mean, it's worth saying he's only started 7 Premier League games. Only the 15 appearances. Needs to probably get that first goal in the league off his back. There's only 2 assists in those 15 appearances. I don't know if you saw the goal he scored against Brighton at the weekend in pre-season.
No, not seen it.
Plays a link 1-2, drops it off his chest, fires it in on the volley from the edge of the area. And again, it was a reminder, there is definitely a player there. And should he hit what the original expectations were, he's another one who was he 6.5, I think, in FPL. Right. You think that run Chelsea have got from sort of game week 2 / game week 3, and you think, I could, if he shows up really nicely against Liverpool in game week 1 again, then I think people might get drawn to that quite quickly. He's obviously got competition for the spot in the sense that you've got obviously Sterling, Mudryk, you've got Nkunku, Jackson. There's forward players who certainly there can be competitive. He's out and out left winger. Yeah, he's not one I think you're going to see. You might get sort of 5-10 minute swap overs on occasion just to keep defenders on their toes, but he's out and out left winger, and really he's a goal scoring winger who we've not seen it from yet. And you're right, it looked for the world back in January that originally was going to go to yourselves. I don't think he would have played any more if he went to you, by the way.
No.
It might have helped going in that environment where you obviously were winning a lot.
Yeah.
He'd have had to get Martinelli out of the team, I think.
Yeah, true.
So
I think another factor though that you kind of touched on in terms of the arm around the shoulder, like as football fans, I feel like we ignore these factors quite a lot. And
Yeah,
I know you've spoken about it with like Kane and potentially going abroad and family factors. Like he's young, Mudryk, and coming, obviously everything that was going on in Ukraine to come to England. How old is he? I think I want to guess he's like 21,
no, it's
22.
22. Yeah.
Okay. And like joining a Chelsea team that at that time was in quite a toxic environment. Obviously, Potter then left. You got Lampard come in as an interim. It's like that's so much going on for like new country, new club. And I just think being in a settled environment with a manager who I really highly rate, like you said, the arm around the shoulder approach, they'll have a clear identity, you'd assume. I think environmental factors like that have such an impact on a player's performance. So
With Chelsea completely down tools, basically, particularly in the last 2 months, and some might argue more. So to come into that environment and you're excited and you're giddy and you want to get going, and everyone else is this manager's not going to be here next
yeah,
year with two different managers at the end of last season. That wouldn't have helped. He's had two different managers already. He's about to have a third.
exactly. And that's a like clean slate could do in the world of good. But yeah, I think it'll be really interesting this year. I think he'll do well.
Yeah, I think I'd think he'd start game week 1. I think
Yeah,
would probably be my expectation at the moment. Yeah, I think so.
I'm looking forward to seeing your predicted lineup. You're doing that on Patreon this week, aren't you?
Oh, well sold. Only for the advanced tiers, though, Clayton. Um, all right, I'll go next. I'm going to pick a player I enjoyed watching a couple of times over the last couple of weeks, and that is Morgan Gibbs-White of Nottingham
Interesting.
Forest. And I think we should clarify in terms of players we're saying here, when we say better second season, we're not saying their first season was necessarily bad. And I think Morgan Gibbs-White got better and better the longer the
Yeah.
season went on for Nottingham Forest, where he kind of really took that kind of leadership talisman side of things to a different level for Forest. I think it was outstanding in the 2 under-21 games that I watched for England. Standout player throughout the tournament for anybody who watched all the games. Probably said that no, Anthony Gordon won the player of the tournament, but most people I spoke to watched all the games said you're probably Gibbs-White actually. And I think he's got a level to go up to. He's the sort of one I look at now and think, could you be on the fringes and actually get in the full squad next year
Wow.
for the Euros? I think that's a possible.
Yeah.
I do. Because I think he's super talented. I think it helped him as the season went on that he played more of a central role more often. There was times earlier in the season, sort of left hand forward, right hand forward, kind of really lock that in as in you're going to be the number 10 in this team or go deeper and carry the ball for the team. Super talented. There's always been question marks on his attitude at Wolves. So we've told this story 100 times, but the first time we ever saw him was he came on for sub against Tottenham in a game Pochettino was still manager for Tottenham. 3-0 up, and we just about got out of there having won 3-2, and he came on and changed the game.
Wow.
In the last half hour, went in central midfield and ran the game. And that was a Tottenham team that was certainly a top 4 team at that time. And so straight away it was like, who's that kid? And for one reason or another, never really broke through with Wolves, kind of fell out with them a little bit when he left. He had loans in the Championship, done quite well. I think for me now, he's Forest's key player. I think more so than anybody else. And I think he might kick on another level this year.
And are you saying that in terms of level of control in games, actual output, goals, assists? What do you think?
He's got everything. I mean, to be honest, I think got 13 attacking returns last year.
I couldn't tell you. Not
which
sure.
It's 5 goals, 8 assists. I say
Okay.
I think I'm actually looking at it in front of me. But yeah, 1 in 3 for a side that battled relegation.
That's really impressive. Yeah.
And I think what they'd scored in the first 6 months, scored like 2 away goals all season, for example.
Really? Wow.
So there were more towards the end of the season. But I think that's pretty decent. You know, if I said for a forward in a side like that, attacking return every 3, you'd probably take that.
Yeah.
If I said to a Forest fan now, 13 attacking returns from Alwani, it'd probably, that's not too bad, actually. And I think Gibbs-White's very capable of more, actually. I think from the fantasy perspective, their fixtures are rough. At the start, they're four of the first 6 are away, and they're horrendous. Their first 4 away games could easily be next year's top 4. I think it's City, yourselves, Liverpool, and Chelsea, I think, are the 4.
Wow.
So rough start in terms of away games, a couple of nice home games. But yeah, I really like him. I think he'd be a wild card one now to maybe get into the England squad, because I think going to Forest and being the man I think it's helped him.
Yeah.
I think he needs to feed that. Whereas, like we said with Mudryk, it feels like he needs the arm around the shoulder at the moment. With Gibbs-White, I think he needs to feel his importance.
Yeah. He
And I
needs that
think
authority. Yeah.
yeah, and his work rate's great. So it's not just the technical qualities. He's a good dribbler, good striker. He's got all the energy. Yeah, I really, really like more
It's a really
Gibbs-White.
good shout. It wasn't on my list. Hadn't thought of him until you
Wow,
said it.
terrible. Terrible. Go on then, mate. Off you
Should I
go.
try? Yeah, should I try revive myself? So I don't know if this is a cop out.
Yeah, it's a
Diego,
cop out before you already say
the
it.
fact that I have to say it, Diego Carlos at Villa. And the reason I say I don't know if it's a cop out is because obviously he was injured.
But he's got to have a better second season, presumably, isn't he?
All right, should I go to a different one?
No. But I
All
think
right.
it's fine to mention him if you've got him on the list because very highly rated, can play right-sided, left-sided centre back. He's not on my list. I didn't include him because I just didn't think it was fair to even say
And that's what I wasn't sure, but he's
better
someone.
second season.
Yeah, like obviously, like you say, he was really highly rated, and I just think Villa's recruitment has been so impressive. And Emery, I think, is a really good manager. Obviously, didn't work out at Arsenal for different reasons, but I think Villa's perfect for him, and I think their trajectory could be really, really special. Villa and the squad they're building is really good, and yeah, I just think him alongside, I guess, will it be Torres next to him potentially? I don't know if Mings would immediately drop out, but you'd think eventually that will be the two. And then you've got someone like Kamara in front. That the midfield balance in front of them looks really good. And their team, like on paper, I want to say it's like a top six team already on
Yeah,
paper.
I'm a little concerned about him
Okay. Oh, in the
because
sense of how well they'll do, or
yeah,
that
yeah,
they may
yeah.
underwhelm. Okay.
Yeah, no, no. To be honest, to tell you truthfully, right now, I think as it would stand, and that there's a month or so of the window to go, etc. But I think right now Villa will probably finish above my team
Really?
as it stands.
I hope so, but I'm not quite there with that.
And that's not to say that I don't think my team will improve, even if Kane does go. I think we probably will, but I think there's a level for them. The stat is quite well known. Like since Emery walked in, fourth best team in the league.
Yeah.
That's not over 3 months. It's over 6 months. So I think we should treat them seriously. They've added well with Pau Torres as well. Yuri Tielemans, Moussa Diaby is a big signing for them
what a signing.
as well. And you've got players like Carlos, who could certainly be added. The only thing I'd say as well is obviously Emery's gone very high line.
Yeah.
And I don't know enough about the player to know if that's going to be suitable for him.
Yeah.
I'd have to be very honest about that. He can't have a worse season, Clayton. He didn't bloody play, did he? Poor soul. He did his Achilles tendon like second game, wasn't it?
Second game. Yeah.
So yeah, flexible as well. Right, can play right, left side. Although you'd think with Torres added now to Mings as left sided, it's probably more right sided centre back. That's obviously competition with Konsa. Although I have a suspicion we might see a bit of Ezri Konsa at right back this season, which is something Lee Jackson's mentioned to us before. Yeah,
Ahead of Cash.
Yeah, well, when he's done it well, Emery has been pushing the left full back up, Alex Moreno, who presumably is going to miss the start of the season, but Luca Dean is also better going that way than that way. So quite often Ashley Young was tucking in to make third centre back. You wouldn't really want Matt Cash doing that.
No.
I think. So
interesting.
I can see that. If you look at that centre back, that block of centre backs now, Constance, Mings, Torres, and Carlos. Yeah, it's good. Yeah, but I think he'll be a player, Carlos, people have forgotten about.
Yeah.
It was very highly rated. Good long direct distribution as well was one of the reasons he was bought originally, was to be able to outballs, bypass the midfield to the wide players. So if he plays regularly, and Carlos to Diaby is a pass we might see a lot this season, actually. I'm going to pick one of my own players, Clayton.
Can I guess?
Yes, you can.
Basuma?
Yes.
He was on my list.
I was worried she's going to say Richarlison.
I texted my mates about this and he was like, Richarlison. I said, no, thank you.
Just a note, like, look, obviously if Kane does go, there's every chance Richarlison will start up front.
Yeah.
And I think Richarlison is going to need a run of games, clearly, which as it stands, I don't see him getting, because at the moment, I don't think, I'm not convinced he's good enough, to tell you the truth. Anyway, I think he's one of them. He either needs complete domination and you're the finisher, like you see for Brazil, or he's the nutcase workhorse we saw for Everton. And at the
Yeah.
moment, Tottenham fits somewhere in between those two boundary lines. Yeah, very, very much high hopes for Bissouma. Only started 10 games in the Premier League last season. Injury interrupted season as well, but it didn't help that he came in. Bentancur got a concussion. Bissouma played at West Ham. He did okay. Then Bentancur came straight back in for him. So he never got any run. And when he did get in the team and there was injuries, the team started performing badly as well, which wasn't a necessary knock-on of him specifically. It's a really difficult season for him. I think with the new manager, who obviously wants to encourage attacking football far more, we're going to see a better footballer. Well, he's a defensive player. And yes, primarily is, but he's also potentially a good ball carrier as well. Despite playing as the 6, should have scored in the West Ham friendly last week, where he ended up basically shooting from the penalty spot in a 1-on-1 situation. So there's license to go. It looks like he'll be Tottenham's starting player in that position. He will drop between the centre-backs, get the ball. He's the hub. He'll create a triangle with the 2 centre-backs where they're constantly looking to try and feed it in for him. I think, yeah, expect a much, much better season for him. Interestingly, obviously, our game against Leicester was postponed because of monsoon-like rain in Thailand on Sunday. And he was in the team again, so was Højbjerg. And I'd said to you, Oliver Skipp was the kind of right-sided 8 who did the running in the game against West Ham last week. The suspicion on the selection was that Højbjerg was going to play the 6th position and he was going to look at Bissouma as an 8. That was the suspicion. We won't know. We've got another friendly tomorrow where they might try it again. We think Højbjerg's probably going to go to Atletico Madrid. Okay. Seems to be the word online at the moment. But Bissouma will definitely be a starter, whatever that is.
Well, he can do both roles, right? Yeah.
I mean, I've literally seen that in his final season at Brighton. So we played them twice. We played them in January in the FA Cup 4th round. And despite the fact we won 3-1, he was probably best player on the pitch.
Yeah.
And he played as an 8 and he just drove them forward at every opportunity. Then
we destroyed us as well, yeah.
Then we played them in the league at April and they won 1-0 and Trossard scored a very late goal. And he just literally did a screening job where his role was just to stop the ball going into Kane. He just moved from side to side and blocked the pass into Kane all game long. So you've got a player there who's got different functions and can do both very well. And unfortunately, for Tottenham last year, playing in the 2, the midfield got swamped a lot. It was primarily Højbjerg and Bentancur till his injury. And then obviously he would have got a run and he also got injured. So it became Oliver Skipp instead. So yeah, Bissouma, I am as long as he's fit, he will start game week 1, and I'm very, very confident of a much better season from him. Very talented player. Was delighted when we got him. 25 minutes bargain, really.
Yeah, I remember even last summer when it was last summer, wasn't it? And you got him, and I heard 25 million. I was thinking, all right, what's the catch? Like that felt at the time. I think so many people have forgotten just how good his final season at Brighton was, and at the time, I remember thinking that was one of the bargains of the window.
It was a very rare one as well, where there wasn't much speculation. There was a little bit of online murmuring the night before, and the next morning it was like, here we go,
done. Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, I think I had him on my list as well. I think he'll do really well, and like I've said to you before, I hope I'm wrong, but I think you guys under this new manager will do very well, and again, I think like having a clear identity, I think players like Bissouma, they'll thrive. So yeah, unfortunately, I agree.
I don't think the season can be worse from a spectacle point of view than it was last year. I am conscious of a lot of things, but we're going to be more fun. I think for the neutrals watching or listening, Tottenham are going to be more fun to watch again. I think we'll be capable of really hurting some teams this year. I think we'll have 1 or 2 games where we'll slap some people this year. That might take a while before we see that. I also think that if anybody can set up correctly against us defensively and have quick players on the counter, they'll be capable of beating us.
That's music to my ears.
Anyone.
What my team's like.
I told you, we play you in game week 6. For those who don't know, Arsenal's Clayton. You presume you know who I support by now. Like, we've got more chance of winning at the Emirates this year than we have for quite a while. We've also got more chance of getting absolutely annihilated more. Yeah. So, like with Conte, at 3-1 last year, we're down to 10 men. He's like, we'll take this damage limitation, which in hindsight I kind of accept because the game was done and we was only going to get beat 5-6-1 if we went for it. I think that situation, Anne should still be.
He'll still go for it. Yeah.
I think so. Yeah. Right. Who's next? It's me, isn't it?
It's
no,
me,
Schade,
but
go on.
yeah. So he set the bar high, but Alexander Isak, I think he'll go up another level himself. I think he is so bloody good. And yeah, I should have checked the stats on how many starts and appearances. But he didn't start all of
Probably
them.
not as many as we think.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. And that's what made me kind of put him on here. I think he'll start a lot more this season. And I don't know what the actual narrative is around Newcastle, to be honest. Not really done a sense check or anything, but I think they'll be kind of challenging for top four again. Like, not sure how Europe for them will be, kind of adding that in with the level and depth of their squad. But I think their recruitment's smart. But Isak, I think, is such a great player that obviously he's played similar to Nunes. He's played out wide. He's also played down the middle. But wherever he is and when he gets the ball, even for a centre forward, his dribbling and close control is a joke.
He's got that body frame where you think he should look uncomfortable. He's got them skinny legs, almost a bit like Peter Crouch.
Yeah, he
but I mean, in terms of his technique and stuff, the assist at Everton, which he never got the assist for.
Yeah,
I mean, it's assist of the season. I don't care that he didn't get it in FPL. Super talent. I'd maybe have reservations in terms of whether he'll hit top tier numbers for goals specifically.
Yeah.
I'm not convinced it will ever be sort of someone who'll push 25, 30 a season, but I
could see him in the 20 bracket.
Yeah, I don't think he'll ever necessarily have to be.
Yeah.
Because I think Newcastle, with the way they're going, will have other attacking players. They've just added Harvey Barnes is someone we know will chip in with goals, etc. And generally they shared the load quite a lot last year. It's obviously got competition with Wilson. I think we probably learnt towards the end of last season that Isak will have favouritism over him.
Yeah.
And the signing of Harvey Barnes means we should get less of that shite we saw at the end of the season with Moulding the touchline on the left against low blocks and stuff. That's not what you want.
That's not what you want him at all.
Very, very talented player. I didn't put him on the list purely because I thought his impact in his first season when he played. Yeah, but I also agree he missed a lot of time through injury. Never really saw him properly till later in the season. Can he go up a level? Yeah, I agree. He's got the potential to be one of the most exciting nines in the world, I think.
Yeah, well, that's a big claim. I don't disagree, but yeah.
I'd look at someone like that and ask me, if Newcastle go to the very, very top and win the league in a few years, could he be their number 9?
Yeah, right now you'd say yes.
I think you'd start asking these questions yourself, and my answer would be yes.
Yeah,
capable. He's not going to do Haaland numbers.
No.
Can he be their number 9 and in a title winning team for them? Yeah.
And I think that was part of the reason for including him. Like, obviously, like I said, he kind of split his share in terms of being left wing, starting centre forward. With that signing of Barnes, and like you say, towards the end of the season, it started to look like Isak was getting the nod over Wilson. I think if he's, again, 38 game campaign, if he starts 30, 32, I think he'll be up there in terms. Yeah, you know what we said about Nunes, top 5 in the league for goal returns. I think Isak could be as well if he starts.
Interesting. If Isak started 38 as a 9 and Nunes started 38 as a 9, who do you think would score more?
Score more? Yeah. Isak.
I'd go Nunes,
Really?
Yeah.
I think Isak would just...
On scoring.
Nunes would win the XG, though.
What, the underperformance? Yeah, probably. Yeah. I mean, Nunes would need double the XG probably, but yeah. No, that's a fair shout. He's a super talented player. I'm going to pick a name that I reckon might not be on your list.
Okay, sure.
Matthias Nunes of Wolves.
Ooh, he's not, but I did consider him.
24. He was a player I looked at quite a bit last year, primarily because
they signed him against you.
Yeah, exactly.
That's why
I had a good look at him. Yeah. And he did well.
I remember watching that game.
Quite an offensive midfield position. And I said to a lot of our guys on our Slack on Patreon that when I'd looked at bits of him, he gave me a bit of Bruno Guimaraes vibes.
Yeah, I remember you saying that.
Now, we never really saw that last year. But it was the vibe in the sense that I know he can play a deeper line role, and I also know he can play a more offensive role. And it's probably links in terms of where those players were bought from as well. You get that correlation and probably natural psychological comparison, if you will. And he scored 1 goal last year in the Premier League, which was an absolute weldy of a volley against a given up Chelsea, if you will. But it was a super goal, not helped by the fact that he kept getting shunted in position. So it was right midfield, left midfield, attacking midfield, deeper line midfield. I mean, he's an 8, really, who, given the license, could do a bit more. And he might be one where, with Neves gone, who everything kind of went through Neves, he might pick up the baton a little bit and take a little bit more responsibility, perhaps. And despite the fact he's kind of underwhelmed, I think, and that's not to say he had a terrible season, but probably underwhelmed on expectations in his first year. We keep hearing the likes of Liverpool want to buy him. We keep hearing that rumour. It rears its head every month or so. Liverpool want to buy him. I think people on the outside who haven't watched him probably, what do you want to buy him for? Now, Liverpool are potentially bought other midfield players that possibly rules that out now. But he's very highly regarded and rated within the game. When Wolves got him, it was a bit of a coup. It was a sizable transfer fee. And I think he's one who will definitely kick on next year. I would be surprised if he didn't do a lot better this coming season than he did last season. But I mean, he probably got that little bit more self-responsibility. I think.
Yeah. It's an interesting shout because individually as a player, I agree. I think Wolves will struggle this year.
Well, I wanted to do something positive on Wolves as well, because every time I mention them, it's negative. But even at the start of this, Lopetegui's favourite to get sacked. Yeah, I keep doing negatives on them, so I wanted to do something positive.
All right, I'll stop talking on that one. Let you have that. No, I think it's a good shout. And yeah, because when they signed him, it wasn't cheap. I think he was like 45 million or something, wasn't he?
I don't know if it was quite that high, but yeah, it was certainly in the 30s at least.
Yeah, and expectations are fairly high. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how he does.
Yeah, one to watch. Go on then, pal.
Aaron Hickey at Brentford.
Yeah.
Is he on your list?
Right at the bottom, yeah.
Yeah, okay, yeah. He's somewhere, again, Arsenal were linked with him about 18 months ago, and so naturally started looking at him, and my mind's gone blank on what the word is when you're both footed, but comfortable on both feet. And
footidextrous or just ambidextrous?
Ambidextrous. That's what did you say? Footidextrous.
Footidextrous.
Yeah, he's someone that they got him from Bologna, right? And he came in, and I think in the FPL community there were murmurs: will he be an option? Will he not? And I think they priced
5.
And that kind of
ruled it out. People forgot about him.
And I feel like as a result, there's like your FPL brain and your football brain. So once the FPL brain rules someone out, no one really pays attention to him. And he started a fair share. I want to say he started about 20 games or so. And I just think he's someone that has massive potential. I don't know why he kind of went under the radar last year, but he's someone that I think could really kick on this season. And
yeah, I think there were concerns about him defensively in a few games. And sometimes when they went with a back 5, it'd be, say, Roslev would cover in that position, for example. But yeah, I mentioned him. He was the first player I said, you'll be an interesting one starting next season.
Right.
And I know he's under 1% of FPL teams at the moment. I'd prefer him to Rico Henry as a selection at the moment if people wanted to go down that route.
Me too.
I think primarily right back, because Henry's a player I really like as well, actually, on the left-hand side. So primarily that. But there were things towards the end of last season. I obviously saw him at Tottenham in 37. But was really impressed with him when he played at Liverpool, actually. And Brentford played quite well that day.
Yeah, I remember.
Lost 1-0. Tony was fantastic. I mean, it was the last game before the ban,
performance,
actually.
Yeah.
He was so good, Ivan Toney. But Hickey ended up covering on the left-hand side towards the end of the game and really took a lot of onus off the ball and on the ball. And I thought, you're growing. Sometimes you see that in a game, you're growing into this. You know you're at this level.
Yeah.
And I agree with you. I think he's one really to watch out for this year. Another very good Scottish fullback. They seem to develop them more than anybody else, actually.
Yeah.
But yeah, I like that shout. Yeah, I think I wouldn't be surprised if we're sitting at the end of next season and he's being linked with some of the top clubs. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised,
Yeah, I think he's got huge potential. Yeah, one to watch. I think he could do well.
Well, that's rubbish anyway, because the next player on my list was another Brentford player, Kevin Schade.
Yeah, he's on mine.
So he's only 21, German. I haven't yet worked out if he's crappied or not.
Yeah.
So,
same.
like, blisteringly quick. He gave, obviously, he played at Tottenham in 37. He played as the left winger. And I give Emerson Royal, who's not, I wouldn't call slow. He pushed it past him a couple of times. You ain't living with that.
Yeah.
Absolutely rapid. But the end product was questionable. I think we'll hear on Correspondent Week next week. Tom Med, I think it's going to be pretty high on him. Potentially even as an FPL option, by the way.
So is he
5.5?
The starting 9 for Brentford then?
No, so there is a thought that he was potentially bought as a longer term Tony replacement. He's a very different player.
Yeah,
right? Tony in terms of his length, the upper body stuff, all the things that bringing into play that performance at Anfield, like on the ball, he's bringing people.
It was a clinic. Yeah,
yeah, absolutely, genuinely world class stuff.
Yeah.
Schade just looks like an out-and-out rapid winger to me. Now, it might be that they decide to use him as part of I think particularly a 2, maybe in some of the bigger games with Mbeumo, and maybe Vissa's not in the team, for example. But I would imagine Tottenham opening day, it'll probably be Schade left, Vissa central, and Mbeumo right, would be my guess as it stands at the moment. He's also got competition. Another player who could have made this list really keen, Lewis Potter, who Brentford bought from Hull, who had a very injury-interrupted season. Brentford haven't seen the best of yet. He's a direct competition on that left-hand side as well. So he's got some work to do to make sure that he's going to become a natural, regular first choice. It's obviously the transfer has been made permanent. It was originally a loan with a view to buy. And he's one very much to keep an eye on, because if he gets it right and starts adding the goals to his game and stuff, I mean, literally, pace is unstoppable.
Yeah.
He is burning rapid, mate, but might be crappied. So he was a questionable one for me.
I've got him on the list, and literally in my notes, literally got the words crappied ? But again, it's just like he was someone that's very highly rated as well. He's being talked about as one of the kind of talents, the young talents in Europe to keep your eye on and stuff. And I've said this on whatever pod we did last week, but a lazy analysis I like to use is if Brighton or Brentford are scouting someone, I'd like to think they're a good player because of how well run they are. So yeah, we're like very lazy analysis, but that's how
also
I like
true, because we laugh about it all the time. Right, go on then, Clayton. Do one more, and then perhaps we'll do a roundup of a couple of names.
Yeah, I'm looking through my list, and I don't know, the quality's going down.
Well, I did say put the best ones at the top.
Yeah, but we've done all the best ones, so I'm like scraping the barrel. Have you got anyone that's like top of your list that we haven't really got to yet?
No, I think the one I'd probably be itching for people. I think there'll be more of this is Anthony Gordon.
Oh, good shout. I didn't include him because I wasn't sure how much he'll play.
Now, we did mention him earlier because obviously he did win the player of the tournament for England under 21 and played a very different position. Essentially, him and Gibbs-White basically both played as false nines. England only played with a natural centre forward when Cameron Archer came on. And he did excel. Freedom to go and move. And if you want to drift into a wide area, you can. Wasn't like he was bogged down to having to hold the left or the right touchline. And I didn't see any of the game, but I understand he played a similar position for Newcastle against Villa in the game in the United States at the weekend. Now, how I see that fitting in for Newcastle, I'm not sure, because I think the power you've got in the midfield now with Guimaraes, Tonali added, Joelinton, Willock, Longstaff was a key player for them last year as well. You've got Barnes added in to play on the left side, which is competition. And if he's going to play on the right, he's got Roust Almiron, who obviously had a flyer in the first half of last season.
Could you see him starting as an 8 then?
As an 8, no.
No.
But obviously what a lot of teams do on the ball now is move into a 4-4-2 off the ball.
Yeah.
So you're moving, if you do that where the 2 wide players come deep, and I think players like Barnes and Almiron would probably be natural to say you wouldn't move one of them 2 into the 9 position. Yeah, fine. You drop back and you can take the responsibility off an 8. Sure, he can go and join Isak or Wilson in that kind of first line of defence as the 2 forwards off the ball, maybe. And it might create space for him when they win it back on transition and stuff as well, where, holding midfield, he's on my shoulder, or centre backs, or do I go with him? I think he's quite a clever player. I think he's obviously had a lot of stick because the way he left Everton
Yeah.
and stuff, which I completely understand that. And obviously, people have made so much of the price tag. But if you just remove the price tag, that almost feels like the number one reason not to put him on this list is the price tag.
Yeah.
Almost like we've got to put Anthony Gordon cost before your time, Clayton, but in the 80s is also before my time. But Dad used to make me watch a lot of videos. There was a player called Norman Whiteside playing for Manchester United. And it was like every time he scored a goal, people had to tell you his age.
Right.
And it's the same with Gordon and the transfer fee. It's like no one can have a conversation with him without mentioning the transfer fee.
Yeah.
Did Newcastle pay too much for him? Probably. Do they care? No.
No. Yeah. But like I said, the only reason I didn't include him was I'm not sure how many minutes he'll actually get.
It's questionable. But I think in terms of his second season with Newcastle,
yeah,
we got to get a lot more than what we saw in obviously his 4-month period and kind of transition into moving into the club as well.
And like you say, you're right though. If you remove the price tag and you just focus on like his attributes and what he could bring to that team, it's good stuff.
He's 22. If they'd have paid 22 million for him, you'd go, right, well, that's great prospect for the future. Who I think what we're learning as well is multi-talented in terms of his skill set of position.
Yeah.
So we're now learning potentially central as well. So you may even get a circumstance this year where, say, Isak and Wilson were both missing, that maybe would play false.
Do you think he'd ever go false? Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah, could be. Could be. I wouldn't, by the way, be surprised if you saw Forest do that with Gibbs-White on occasion this year.
I could definitely see that. Yeah.
Right, go on. Let's others will be here all day, but go on, just throw some names. Who else is on your list?
Yeah,
let's give honourable mentions.
The ones I wanted to get your opinion on that I couldn't say with confidence, but Brighton and Sisso, Ferguson, any love for them?
Oh, massive love. I mean,
but
Ferguson.
Do you think it would be enough minutes to kind of warrant having a better second season, or?
Well, Ferguson, I wouldn't allow you to include as they come through the academy. So
yeah, but last year was his breakthrough.
Yeah, I could go with that, but yeah, I didn't say put kids on the list, Clayton. Yeah, I mean, yes, I expect more from both of them. And again, to clarify for those who might be joining late on the stream, we're not saying these players had a bad season last season. We're just saying there's a level to go. I think, yeah, both of them. I think Enciso is super talented, and Ferguson. That Tottenham might be making a bid in the next couple of weeks. Don't rule it out. I don't think Brighton would sell now. So I said that might be something maybe more this time next year. But yeah, he's got it. They've both got it. Yeah.
Yeah, I think if he stays this season, this time next summer, you'll see quite a lot of top teams bidding for Ferguson. I think Arsenal may be one of them come this time next year, depending on centre forward requirements.
Wouldn't be surprised, age profile, etc.
Yeah. A couple others. Damsgaard?
Yeah. I kind of changed the game. Although I think it was more Brentford changed system a little bit when he came on in that game at Tottenham in 37. But it did improve with him on the pitch. He's technically a good player. He's very slight of frame, isn't he?
Yeah.
I mean, coming to our league, if you're not getting regular minutes to build up, can be quite an adaptation. But yeah, likable player. Another one in theory can play in that front three line as well.
Yeah. And then final one. We spoke about Chelsea's attacking options. How do you think Sterling will get on this season?
Wow, I didn't even consider putting Raheem Sterling on this list.
Because I put Mudryk.
I didn't even think of it.
I basically put all three. I put Mudryk, Madueke, and Sterling. But it was just the conversation we had earlier just prompted the light bulb in me and thinking Sterling.
I think because of Mudryk, I think he'll play on the right.
Yeah, me too.
That's because I think Mudryk has got to play on the left if he's going to play. So I think primarily on the right, obviously, look, Raheem he can play 10, he can play 9, but I think Nkunku's going to be one of the two in one order. And I just see Sterling getting a nod over Madueke to start with as an experience to match up against Mudryk's inexperience on the other side. Probably means as well they can shunt the system and do certain things as well. My instinct is the best of Raheem Sterling we've seen.
Yeah,
is my instinct. Will he have a better season for Chelsea? I would think probably every player at Chelsea is probably hoping to have a better season than what they had last season, probably. Yeah, it's got to add more. One of the things we discussed about him last year was we know his capability in terms of his scoring prowess. And it was, if I think Chelsea the season before, I want to say Jorginho was their top scorer.
Yeah, I think
Not
he
the
was.
season just gone, but the one before. A lot of that was penalties and stuff. I'm not even sure it was their top scorer last year. Might even be Lukaku.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
That's the season before, isn't it? No, I don't even know who Chelsea's top scorer was last year. So for him, because he's never been the best technically anyway, look at someone like Mudryk and go, technical qualities not in question. I spoke about his first touch being a bit off, but technical qualities, yeah. Raheem had to really refine his technique, but it was very much close control and dribbling. You know, it became kind of a trademark, that bending shot from the edge of the area and stuff. That was a long time before we saw those sort of things. So if the speed's slowing down, he was never the best technically anyway. And he's obviously a player who suffered with injuries as well. I never thought it was right when the transfer went through. I think it's fair to say. It didn't feel right to me, but I felt Chelsea went for it because they thought they would probably add in some form of guarantee of goals from behind
from
the number 9, if you will. But that hasn't happened yet, really.
Do you remember the prime, well, not prime city, there's so many prime cities, but Sterling gets to the byline, Sterling's at the back post. Could you, with what we've said about Mudryk's attributes and the way he can beat a man, can you see that being recreated, getting to the byline and Sterling at the back post?
Yeah, it might depend on Chelsea's use of their fullbacks, which may also come back around to who's available for them as well. But certainly in Pochettino's Tottenham, his first kind of good Tottenham team had Eriksen and Lamella really as the two wide players who both wanted to come inverted and came into inside 10 positions. And then you kind of have Dele would join in with Harry, and it could almost become like a 2-4-4 almost, but with the fullbacks as the kind of the top line of the four, if you will. Because Walker and Rose would just go, right?
And that works with James and Chilwell.
I would think yes, but then I'd also think, like, do I see Mudryk and Sterling being those two players like Eriksen and Lamella? Now that later adapted for Tottenham because eventually, obviously, Son got into the team and was a very different player. So yeah, Pochettino has flexibility in terms of what he can do with it, but yeah, I'm not. I didn't put Raheem Sterling on this list because I'm not sure that he will be better this year, primarily. Basically,
yeah. Interesting.
Any more names you got?
No, none from me. Any more that you wanted to
just 3 more I'll shout out, which one is controversial. Calvin Phillips.
Okay, so I dabbled with him.
He started 2 games, and that was 2 of Man City's last 3. And I know it's kind of been, how do you feel for Calvin Phillips? We've probably got the medals in his bag somewhere, and he's probably quite happy. Look, we've been, not to this extent, but we've been through this so many times with Manchester City, where a player joins, and the first year they do absolutely nothing, and then the second
developmental year,
yeah. And also, he came in, and he was basically injured from almost sort of game week 1-2 up to the World Cup. So he's almost not even had that first year. He's basically only really worked with Guardiola in pre-season and since Christmas. So I don't think it's probably helped him that John Stones has now done so well in this role moving into midfield. I also think Phillips could do it from centre-back, by the way, in certain games. We saw him do that for Leeds. Yeah. I think his range of passing is really good. Sometimes he needs to calm down. So at Leeds, it would be... With Bielsa's Leeds, it was
100 miles an hour.
Punch it into the front men as quick as possible, quite a lot. And they would leave him isolated as a 1, right? Quite often it would say a 4-1-4-1. He'd be very deep. Again, go between the centre-backs, etc. At City, with Rodri sitting there as well, you're not doing that. You're playing shorter yard passes. It's a real adaptation for the player. And I would expect to see a lot more of him this year, actually. Well, he's another one. It can't be any less, really.
No.
A player that I'm a little surprised wasn't on your list, Anthony.
Okay.
So, go on.
Why are you surprised he wasn't on mine?
Because I think the movement from Eredivisie to Premier League, we know is a tough one. I think it probably didn't help him that he came in and he scored in like his first 3 games, didn't he?
Yeah, he scored against us on his debut. I think that was his debut.
And I think he only got maybe 2 more goals afterwards. I don't think he's going to be available for the start of the season. I'm not quite sure what his injury status is, but he's 23, and it's another one, right? the transfer fee is monstrous what they paid for him, right?
I'm
well
sure
over the top,
stuff.
but he doesn't make him a bad footballer.
No.
And interestingly, what I did look at was he appeared in 25 games last year. He started 23 in the Premier League. And he regularly played a lot of those games. I think he's very much a kind of Ten Hag player. Like, I think Ten Hag trusts him and wants him in there. Some of the flashy stuff is annoying, you know, the spinning on the ball and all that jazz, but you know, it's something different.
Yeah.
And he strikes as quite a dislikable player.
Yeah,
like he always looks like he's in a mood or he wants to have a row.
Him and Richarlison are from the same cloth.
I can get that. Have you got a problem with Brazilians, or you just want to?
No, I love the Brazilians. We got half of them at ours.
You want to talk about Neymar as well? He's also in that category,
I love
isn't he?
Neymar.
I mean, Neymar does smile on occasions. Richarlison and Anthony, I get it. You look at the joy of like a Paquetá. Paquetá at West Ham, like, always excited, he's enjoying himself, doesn't he? Yeah. He's a player that we could have put on this list.
Yeah,
as well,
I didn't even think of him actually.
But I think he was really good at the back end of last season for West Ham.
The reason
why
I
didn't include him.
Yeah, the reason I didn't include Anthony is, like, forget the price tag. Man United want to become title challengers, I'd say, right? And I just think he's quite a limited winger for a team that wants to get to that level. I think he's fine for like a top 4 challenging team, but I don't think he has enough variety to his game to be in a starting winger in a title challenging team. And obviously they're not going to go and upgrade him, because I agree, like, Ten Hag trusts him. They spent a lot of money on him, but I just think I don't often see him actually beating a fullback. I think he gets the ball and he makes the space to cross it in and stuff, but I don't think he's good enough at actually progressing play forward, in my opinion. And I'm going to get so many pelters for this, but
you can't criticise Manchester United players.
I know.
They beat you at the weekend. Get back in your box.
I know. I know it. Bloody hell. Yeah, I don't know. I just think what we saw last season, in my opinion, is him.
Yeah, we saw him. Cutting edge analysis on Planet FPL
I think that's his level, in my opinion.
I know what you mean about the variety. Like, when he comes inside, we all know what's coming.
Yeah.
It's the same shot. And it's not even that he comes inside and has a shot. He has the same shot. He always looks for the far post. He never thinks, oh, I'll close my foot and I'll wrap it near post. It's always the same thing. But then little bits like the assist for Diogo Dalot at Nottingham Forest late in the season, we've done that and actually played the reverse pass and Dalot scored. And it needs more of that, more variety. That's exactly what I get what you're saying. It needs more variety in what he's going to do this season. When I went to Old Trafford, he was brilliant against us. And you could tell certain things, you get a feel of a player when you're in a stadium, I think. Yeah. And he's got it.
See, I'm not there.
I'm not saying he'll ever justify that money.
Yeah.
But I do still think that he'll be a regular key player and a regular starter for Manchester United. I wouldn't deem it. Do I ever think that transfer will prove value for money? Probably not. But do I think he can still be a key player for Manchester United? Whereas some might be questioning that. No, I think he will be.
Yeah. So I agree he'll be a regular player. I just don't think he's as good as I think others do, personally.
Fine. Just one more name to chat, because I thought it was very worthy of one from what I saw bits at the end of last season, and again for the under-21, James Garner at Everton.
Really good shout there, yeah.
Who he only started 8 games last season. He played in 16 games. He only started 8, but he started 7 of the last 8. More of a sitting midfield role. We saw him a lot, again, injury interrupted after the permanent move from Manchester United. He'd done well at Nottingham Forest in the Championship the year before. Often had people in his way and had injuries. So, you know, they also bought Amadou Onana, for example. And also obviously covered at right wing back when Everton had a real crisis with the loss of Coleman. Obviously, Nathan Patterson wasn't ready at the end of the season, and he did pretty well. And he also played right back for England.
Oh, did he?
And I wonder if we didn't see it, but it does make me wonder if Everton could become a good football team one day, if he could do that, the right back into midfield role. But I think he's someone who I think he's really worth mentioning, because I think he had a really difficult first season through no fault of his own. I think he's a good footballer, and I think he'll become a regular starter for Everton this year. He's not like Gibbs-White. I'd see kind of being in contention for the England squad next year. But a name to keep an eye on. I think he'll have a better season.
Yeah, good shout.
That's it, Clayton. Cheers, buddy. Anything you want to sell or promote?
No, all good.
Okay,
Nothing
so
for me.
doesn't want to promote Planet FPL Patreon. Fine.
No,
if you want to
I do
support the
not.
show, it's www.patreon.com/Planet FPL. Clayton's joining me for the quiz on that today, and judging by some of his answers last week, we're all in for a very, very good laugh. Suj will be back with me
Cheers.
tomorrow for the Sky Fantasy Football Podcast. As always, guys, be nice to each other. Cue music, please. Man child.